With just 2 weeks left until opening night, it's a good time to kind of reflect on how some of the divisions now are changing a little bit and opening up. And one of those divisions is the mini stock class. Now, a lot of drivers that have collected a lot of feature wins in the last couple of years are either moving on or moving up or taking a step back in 2016. And all of a sudden, that leaves a huge vacuum for some of our rising stars to kind of step forward and really make a name for themselves. I got one of them on the line right now, none other than third-generation racer Gerrit Tiemersma. Now, I want to know, my man, 2016 seems like it's going to be a huge opportunity for a lot of drivers that have been overlooked the last couple of seasons. Are you up to the challenge?
Oh, yeah, big time. It's going to be interesting this year. There's going to be a lot of names, new names in Victory Lane. I'm looking forward. I'm going to be predicting something here, saying Jake Watson. I think he's going to be at the front this year. He's been working on a couple things, and I know they put a lot of effort into the car over the off season. And other guys such as Eric York, Terry Woodley. You know what? It's going to be a good race for the title this year. There's going to be a lot of new names. Nick Molinari's another. It's going to be interesting. I'd like to see what's going to happen this year.
You're absolutely right. It's wide open. It really is anyone's division because you know that McFerrin has moved up. You know that Jordan House has moved up. Kendra Adams is moving on. Stefan Semeraro is moving on. So there's a lot of drivers that are kind of taking off in the mini stock division. So you're right. We are going to see new drivers, new faces in Victory Lane, and it felt like the mini stock division was getting a little bit stale. We were having a lot of the same guys at the front of the field. 2016 is going to be that shakeup that I feel like we've needed for a couple of years now.
Oh yeah, I could definitely agree. At the end of the year, it seemed like we were seeing the same 6 or 7 guys up front, and you're right. Like even my dad says, from a fan's point of view,
it was
starting to become boring. Yeah, it was starting to become boring because you started where you finished where you started because we were all so fast in those 6 cars or 7 cars. That include like Cam Rath or even Danny Benedict. They're all fast. They're able to get up there, and it was just becoming a stalemate with everyone because we were all pushing it to the limit so much. And this year's going to open some new doors.
Now, I just recently did an interview with Brandon McFerrin chatting about his Superstock Rookie of the Year program, and I asked him to pick one driver that was ready to make a championship push, and your name was the first one that came up. And the reason he said the old driver, the number 17 machine, is because of how easy you are on equipment. The fact that you'd be able to sort of go through the grind of a whole season without tearing your stuff up. Do you feel as though that's one of your greatest strengths?
Well, yeah, I'd certainly say that. I mean, last year we didn't get roughed up until probably the last month of the season, where I ended up getting involved twice, and that was because of a track-wide collision and also in velocity where I had spun out and Kendra Adams had locked up and unfortunately hit the front end of our Mustang. But it was good because it was the end of the season, and to be honest, we're starting the same year on the same set of brake pads as last. So yeah, I guess you could say we're easy on equipment.
I mean, that's what you need to do, though, right? I mean, if you want to go 18 weeks into a season and sort of be at the top when it's all said and done, that's what you need to be doing, because when you're putting the car back together again every week, you're not getting any better.
Oh yeah, like unfortunately, I hate to use this example. But when you look at Paul Maltese and the worst luck he's had over the last 2 years, because he's just been involved with everything and people have been involved with him, it sucks not being able to compete, but it sucks when you're not able to compete because you have to put the car together every week again. And it really does require you to think conservative once in a while, If in my rookie year I made a few mistakes that cost me a race and maybe the rookie of the year, but because I was just being too aggressive, and I learned that throughout the course of the season you got to be conservative on your stuff. If you don't have a car for next week, you can't run for a championship.
It's so interesting to hear you say that, because that's exactly how Doug Butler won his 2015 championship. When you go back and look at the results, he wasn't coming out and starching dudes and winning 3 or 4 weeks in a row. He was just sort of knocking down podiums, at the front of the field every week, but he wasn't blowing stuff up at the same time. He wasn't roughing guys up. There were nights where he was happy with a second or third place finish to bring the car home in one piece, knowing that he was sort of playing that long run game and looking ahead to September, to the end of the year, to that one big goal that he had with the championship.
Exactly, yeah, and that's probably why, he's a 7 or 8 time champion at Sunset. I mean, he came in and the competition was stiff, and yet again, he proved to be probably the smartest driver out there, going seconds, thirds, fourths. I don't think he finished out of the top 5 once, but he was just the smartest driver out there, to be honest. He was the smartest with the best equipment, and it proved in when the standings came through.
Now, I love the Sunset division because we have such a wide variety of different makes and models that we have in the mini stock division that are running at the front. You have the Sunfires, the Civics, the 240s, and then you have the Mustangs as well. In your opinion, I mean, I'm assuming you're a little bit biased because you're Team Mustang right now. Is that where the division is headed right now? Do the Mustangs sort of have the advantage heading into 2016 as far as the rules package goes?
Well, actually, you know what? I would say they don't have the advantage. Neither do the Nissans. I think, you know what? The Acuras and maybe even the Chevys or the Cobalts and Cavaliers, Sunfires, I think they got a bit of an advantage because there was a bit of weight changes in the rules this year to allow them to take weight off and allow a header. So, it's going to be really interesting because I know Nick Molinari had a fast car last year. They just weren't able to get it to turn. So if they can get the whole program together, that's going to be a really fast car. And I know Miles Tyson, when he had some nice practice days, and man, was he fast. I was chasing his times, looking at it like, how the heck are we going to make this car go better? Or faster, sorry.
I feel like Miles Tyson might be one of the most underrated guys on the roster, and he's had a few feature wins kind of slip through his finger because of some crazy stuff happens, or he'll loosen up real bad towards the end of a race, or have some mechanical stuff happen. But I mean, I truly believe that he's probably one of the better guys on the roster, and not a lot of people sort of bring his name up often enough.
I would agree with you probably because with Miles, it seems like they weren't able to get a full year together because of certain circumstances or if something happened, and it was just the fact that he wasn't able to, pull off a Jordan House where he won four weeks in a row, I think it was. And I feel like if he did that, he'd have a much greater name because, in my opinion, Miles Tyson ran just as well as Jordan House. He just didn't get the wins as Jordan House did. If you look at it as championship-wise, I think Miles finished 4th or 5th in the standings this year. And to be honest, the top 5 were all within 30, 40 points, which is very, very close. I mean, I was far out because of a few bad finishes, and it shows that he did really well with what he could over the season.
I mean, when you got a division as closely packed as the Sunset Mini Stocks are, you really have to be lucky to be good. Because, I mean, just having a good car and just having talent alone, it's not going to get you to the championship because you do sort of have to have that element of good fortune to help you out on some nights.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. I think it comes, especially with last year, the starting spots as well. Because everyone was so close. I mean, first place to 10th place was probably within a tenth of a second to a lap time, and you're not going to make a pass if the guy in front of you is the exact same speed. So it really mattered where you started in the race unless you were that much better. So, yeah, it is a big thing of how much luck you can have when you pull a draw, or even sometimes when people do make mistakes. Like I know once or twice McFerrin spun a guy at the beginning of a race, and then he had to work his way up through the field. Yep. And the same. I've had the same thing on the first lap. I was in 3rd place and decided, hey, I want to start at the back because I decided to spin someone out.
And what's that feeling like when you've got a favorable starting position and you're thinking, all right, I'm in an awesome spot to get my first ever feature win. You got the strategy all lined up in your head for what you want to do over the next 30 laps. And then boom, all of a sudden you get into someone, you're an involved car, you get sent to the back, and all of a sudden your heart's in your throat because oh man, I gotta put in all this work. What's that like for you?
Oh yeah, that was the worst night I had because we were starting to get the car figured out. It was 3/4 of the year. It took us a long time to figure out our Mustang, but once we did get it figured out, it was, you like you said, it was heart-wrenching because I had a great starting spot and I threw it all away, and now I felt bad because everyone that was there came, hey, we might get a win tonight, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to throw it away. It feels horrible when I come out of the car because I know it's on me. I didn't have to hit him, it was the circumstances, and it's on the driver, it's on you because after all, I'm the one driving, not the people in the pits.
Now this is going to be year number 3 for you in the mini stock division.
Yeah, number 3.
Year number 3. So you started out sort of on team front wheel drives, and then you guys built the Mustang. Was that always in the plan? Was that because I know your dad's such a smart dude, and he's been around forever, and I'm sure he's been kind of planning your mini stock career for a while now before you guys ever had the car. So was that always the plan, get you started in a front wheel drive car and then transition into rear wheel drive?
Actually, no. My first year for racing, my dad said to me, I think it was in January, hey, Gerrit, you want to go mini stock racing? Because I do. And I said, well, of course I do, Dad. It's race cars, And so, unfortunately, it was late in the year, so cars weren't coming up for sale. There were only, what was left. And my dad had taken a look at the rules, and obviously McFerrin winning the championship in 2014 proved it. He said, it looks like a Mustang is the way to go. Plus, it's a rear-wheel drive. I want you to learn how to drive a real race car.
Mm-hmm.
Front-wheel drive is different. I've never dealt with it, but there wasn't anything coming out. And we had actually come with out of karting with Miles Tyson, and so we knew him. He had a Cavalier, or a Sunfire. So we said, you know what? Let's go with the Cavalier because nothing's coming up for sale. And we got, I think it was Josh Chance's out of Flamborough.
That's
Cavalier.
Right. Yes. Right after he won Frostfest with it, right? Or Oktoberfest or whatever it was. Something at the end of the year, he won a big race, and then you guys ended up with it.
Yeah. So because we had Miles Tyson and Ken, his dad, through karting and friends, we went to that because we knew we could get some help through them. And it just turned out that the Mustangs were so fast in the first year that I started racing in 2013. And it kind of sucked at the end of the year because we knew finishing 7th or 8th was going to be the average. And although we did it every night, it was kind of like, oh man, I want to get into the top 5. So for 2014, my dad said, you know what? McFerrin won 8 races this year, 9 races. We have to go in the Mustang. And we went to it, and little did we realize how much goes into them. So it took us over half a year to figure out the car, figure out what to do, asking people left and right, probably until they were about to ask us for information at the end of the year. But it was a big work in progress, and we've had bad luck with, I'd say, the rules for the first year and figuring out the second year because it was just so hard to figure it out. And this year it should be interesting. I think it's going to be a real even class, but we're going to have to do some work. There's some talented drivers in this division.
I think you're 100% right about it being really even. I think when I look at the roster, and I sort of studied the roster a little bit before I got you on the line because I wanted to really have a good understanding. Yeah. And honestly, I think this might be the most even mini stock division we've had in a long time because there's not a favorite. That Paxton and Camrath and Sam Shaw, they're going to contend for wins. They're probably going to get a couple of each wins. I got to think that Paxton and Camrath, they're the dark horses because you never know if they're going to run full time or not. Sam Shaw didn't run full time last year either. So let's take them out of the mix. Yeah. All of a sudden, it's yourself, it's Jake Watson, it's Nick Montanari. It's a really, really even level playing field for the course of 18 weeks or whatever we have for the 2016 season.
Yeah, I think it's 19. Yeah.
So it's really close, which is what we need, right? Because just like your dad said, it gets boring when you see the same faces in victory lane every Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. And when it's like the same faces where it was becoming where House was winning 4 out of the 5 weeks, I believe. And then it was nice to see McFerrin in victory lane at the end of the year because we hadn't seen him there. He was kind of like Doug Butler's 3rd, 4th, but that was just because everyone had stepped up their game, and that top 6 group was the same top 6 group, and then it was just the rest, and then it was basically a race for 7th or 8th. And
do you feel like racing for the lead at Sunset is almost like a moving target because everyone is constantly improving and getting better? Like it's just as soon as you feel as though you got those couple of tenths that you needed, now all of a sudden, shit, the top 6 are that much more faster than they were 3 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, I remember racing third last race of the season, I think, or I finished 2nd place to Jordan House, and I was so pumped, because we had finally done it after, I think, 16 races of struggling. My dad at one point wanted to give away the car for free if you asked him, because he was so frustrated with, like we were trying everything, nothing was working, and we were so happy. But then the next week I thought, you know what, we might be able to get a win, because we were fast. We were probably about to pass Jordan House. That's how I felt. But then I ended up finishing like 7th because it was that close, because our car wasn't 100%. It was 95%, and everyone else ahead of us was 99, 100%. And it's that close where you have to be the best car there to have a shot at the win.
You're right, because if you're off by a little, you're going to look like you're off by a lot.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
It's so close. Now, you come from a racing family. You're a 3rd-generation racer. Your dad was so insanely good in the late model.
Yes.
He was phenomenal. When I was a kid, he was the one. He was coming out there starching dudes, winning races. On the All-Star Tour, he was the man.
Yeah.
Both of your uncles are so accomplished, and just the family name carries so much respect in and around Ontario, not just Simcoe County, but all over the province. When you consider that Derek did the thing with CASCAR, with
CASCAR, Super Series, yeah,
right, like it's being gone everywhere. So I feel like it's both a gift and a curse, because you have this family surrounding you that knows what it takes to win, and they kind of understand where you're coming from. But at the same time, there's that pressure to live up to these men that came before you that accomplished so much in this sport.
I'd say I feel that pressure, but I feel that pressure because I put it on myself. I wouldn't say that there's, the pressure from Dad so much. There is a bit because we invest a lot of time in it. We're out in the shop 3 nights a week, no matter what, because, there's bull checks. There's always something to do, With this extra few weeks before the first race, my dad says, you know what? We're going to clean up the pick art. We're going to do some painting for the jacks or whatever. And there's always something to do in the shop. So that's where his pressure comes in. But the most pressure for performance comes in from me, I think. And that's with every driver. Every driver pushes himself to the limit, or herself with Kendra, I'm sorry. And but yeah, I'd say most of the pressure is all on me because I force myself and I say, you know what? I've got the equipment. I've got everything that I need to be a winning car. Now it's on me to do what I need to do. And making the little adjustment for the race that's maybe half a pound on the tire, that can be the difference between a win and a 3rd place.
And as far as your entire team is concerned, do you guys feel as a unit that you guys are learning enough, that you as a driver are developing enough that you'll be ready to take that next step when the time comes, if that's next year or 2 or 3 years down the road?
Oh yeah, I think so, definitely. When I went from the front wheel drive to the rear wheel drive, my dad said you're going to feel difference. And to be honest, I kind of said to him, yeah, right, buddy. It'll be fine.
You're like, come on, Dad, I've got this thing. I've raced for a year. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. And then I got on the rear wheel drive. And I went on test day, and it looked like it was my first time in a race car because I was just spinning out left and right. I remember my dad told me as soon as I came off the track, you look like an idiot out there. You're letting all the fast cars by.
That's tough love, right? That's what you need.
But yeah, it's definitely taught me a lot, and I think I'll be able to apply it to maybe super stock in the future if I ever get into it. Right now, we're just looking for the 2016 season.
What I love about you is that in your first 2 years in a race car, you have not shied away from going to different tracks, racing against, different rosters and guys and girls that you don't see on a regular basis. A lot of drivers when they first break in, they're a little timid to do that. They don't want to sort of leave home. You've been all about that right from the start. Race anywhere at any time as long as the schedule, sort of works with your Sunset deal. Does that come from your dad? Is that something that you always wanted to do? Tell me a little bit about your touring program.
Well, unfortunately, last year in 2015, we didn't really get to go anywhere because with Sunset schedule 18 nights, that didn't leave many weekends off for family, and my mom wouldn't allow us to go racing. I even complained and begged, but no, that was the case. And at the end of the year, we were planning on doing the Frosttoberfest and maybe even Autumn Colors, but the fact that Velocity, we had just torn apart the car a week and a half before, and we didn't want to do it all again for Velocity. I mean, we had bent part of the clip. We straightened that out in the winter. It was just too much to get there, so we ended up only racing at Sunset in the 2015 season. Unfortunately, we didn't get to. But yeah, like in the 2014 season, we went to Sauble, we went to Flamborough, Peterborough. We went to a lot of places because it was good to get experience. Sauble doesn't have a lot of races anymore, and I'm glad that I got there when I did because it was a fun track, and it is a fun track. It's just a shame that there's not a lot of fans out there. And for the 2016 season, you know what? I've talked to my parents, and I'm more on board than my dad is, but I said, you know what, Dad, I don't really want to have 2 weeks off in summer. If we can, I'd love to run some Peterborough, maybe Flamborough races, because, I've only been to Flamborough in a front-wheel drive. I've never had the Mustang out there, so I really want to see what it's like. And Peterborough, if all works out with the schedules, I know they don't run mini stocks every week. You might see us out there as well.
And it's only going to make you better as a competitor. And it just so happens that two of the biggest mini stock races of the year in the form of Frosttoberfest and the Autumn Colors Classic happen to go down at Flamborough and Peterborough. So if you're going to go out on the road, those are two really good tracks to start with.
Oh, yeah, especially. And Peterborough, my dad talks about back in the day how it was so much fun when he ran late model. It was his favorite place to go. And when I went there, I understood why. It's fast corners. In the front stretch, you're almost always turning, and it gives you experience. It gives me experience on other tracks and on how to drive a different track. And if I race just Sunset every week for the rest of my life, I'm only going to be good at Sunset, and I want to be good everywhere. And in order to be good everywhere, you have to learn how to drive everywhere, and that's really what my dad believes in as well as I.
Well, that's so poignant, man. It makes so much sense because you're absolutely right. You got to be able to adapt. You got to be able to kind of think on your feet in terms of setup and getting that experience at different style racetracks with different surfaces. You go to Sunset. There's a lot of grip. It's a little bit more forgiving than when you go somewhere like Flamborough or Peterborough. It's a little tougher to make the pass there because they're a little bit worn out. So it's just always good to have that in your hip pocket to know that you can make those adjustments. It doesn't happen, going out on tour without the proper marketing partners, without the support behind the scenes. So go ahead and thank the folks that help pay the bills and sign those checks to keep you on the racetrack every week.
All right, so I'd like to thank Speedy Auto Machine, man. They've got a good motor lined up for us this year. We did some work with them over the winter. Got some good numbers on the dyno. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'd like to thank Condo Insurance Solutions as well as Benson Curley. They're helping us out again for the 2016 season. Bork Transmissions, they help us out a lot with deals. And, man, there's so many Wix filters as well. Obviously the parents. I couldn't do it without the parents. I wouldn't be here without the parents. And mom allows me to run a full schedule, which is more than I expect. So it's always thanks out to them. It's really... It's a gift. It is. It's a privilege to do this, and I don't take it for granted. That's for sure.
That's awesome, my man. And I think you're going to have a huge opportunity in 2016 to kind of fill this big void that's been left by all these drivers sort of moving up, guys that were at the front of the field. And I don't think you're going to slip up on that opportunity. Something tells me that you're going to be ready to sort of fill that void with both feet. I can't wait to see you in action in 2 weeks' time. You're a fantastic interview, my young friend. Let's do a few more of these this season.
All right. Hopefully we'll see you in Victory Lane, eh?
Sounds good, buddy. Yeah, I'll see you in Victory Lane on night number 1 on April 30th.
All right. Thanks.
There you have, folks. Third-generation racer Gerrit Tiemersma. He's ready. He's ready to go for 2016, and you should be too. Make sure you come out to Sunset Speedway April 30th for the season opener.